Everyone thought she was just a poor girl to laugh at. But in one breathtaking moment, their laughter turned to silence. The prince had arrived not for the headmaster, not for the elite, but for the girl they mocked the most. And with one word, everything changed. But how did it all begin? To understand this moment, we must go back. The classroom air was thick with whispers that morning, the kind of hushed cruelty that seeps beneath skin more than outright insults ever could. At Hamilton Academy, where polished shoes reflected the light and crisp uniforms told silent stories of wealth, 17-year-old Amara sat quietly at her desk, clutching the edges of her notebook as if they held her together. Her skirt was too short at the hem because her mother had resized it twice, her shoes scuffed from being hand-me-downs, and her hair, though braided neatly, didn't gleam with the expensive product her classmates boasted about. "Look at her shoes," Cara whispered from 2 rows back, voice pitched loud enough to spark laughter, without earning a reprimand. Did she dig them out of garbage? Amara stiffened but didn't raise her head. She kept her eyes on the open notebook, filled with equations she had solved the night before. The numbers gave her refuge, steady in their objectivity, unlike the people around her. Cara, the teacher, Ms. Grayson, sighed distractedly, but there was no real warning. The teacher's indulgent smile at Cara betrayed her. The wealthy girls in class got lenience. Amara got silence. It wasn't the first time. Yesterday, during English, when Amara mispronounced an author's name, a group had snickered, and Ms. Grayson hadn't corrected them. Last week, when she raised her hand with the right answer in history, the teacher's eyes skimmed past her callous ones to land on Marcus, the polished boy at the front, who said the same thing seconds later and earned applause. Amara had grown used to invisibility, mixed with ridicule. What she hadn't gotten used to was a heat in her chest, the burn of knowing she deserved better, but feeling powerless to demand it. By lunch, the whispers swelled into bolder sneers. "Poor girl table," one boy muttered as Amara carried her small lunch bag, a sandwich her mother had made with care, but no brand-name packaging. She found her corner seat near the window, looking at the courtyard where sunlight struck the manicured hedges. It was there, away from the chatter, that she let her imagination breathe. Sometimes she dreamed her father would walk through those gates. Her mother had told her little about him, only that he came from far away and circumstances tore them apart before Amara was born. She imagined a man of dignity, someone who would have shielded her from moments like this. She traced shapes on the condensation of her water bottle, a way of sketching what her heart longed for. The cafeteria door slammed, snapping her out of daydreams. Cara's voice pierced again, cruel as ever. "Guess who'll never be anything but a maid?" Sitting right there. Bet she doesn't even know her daddy's name. Laughter rippled, mean and brittle. This time, Amara's throat tightened and tears stung her eyes. She gripped the table's edge, her nails digging into the wood, fighting to hold herself together. She thought of her mother's face that morning, tired but smiling, telling her, asterisk, "You're more than what they see, baby. I promise the world hasn't seen you yet." Asterisk, but promises felt thin when every laugh felt louder. What Amara didn't know was that beyond the walls of Hamilton Academy, another figure had just arrived in the city. A convoy of sleek black cars moved through the streets, drawing curious stares. Inside the foremost vehicle sat Prince Malik of Arendelle, visiting on an unannounced diplomatic trip. The press didn't know yet. The visit was quiet for reasons of security and personal errands. Malik's sharp suit and steady eyes projected formality, but his fingers curled restlessly. For weeks he had felt the pull of unfinished business. There was someone he had to see, someone he had thought about every night over the past 17 years. At the academy, Ms. Grayson carried on as though half her students weren't engaged in whispered cruelty. When Amara mustered the courage to answer a difficult math question aloud, the room erupted with mocking applause, and even Ms. Grayson smirked faintly, as though the humor were harmless. "Settle down, class," she said, but her words carried no real defense for Amara. When the dismissal bell rang, Amara walked slowly through the gates, her satchel heavy not from books but from isolation. Students streamed past her, some chatting about weekend parties, some tapping on imported phones. Amara hugged her bag close. As she walked, her path was blocked by Cara and her followers. "You don't belong here," Kara sneered, stepping closer so others could watch. Honestly, if scholarships hadn't been invented, people like you would still be scrubbing our floors. Amara's jaw tightened. The insult wasn't new, but its venom still cut. Before she could respond, a quiet stir rippled to the gathered students. Heads turned. Conversation stumbled to silence. Down the street, those black cars approached, engines low and purposeful. The academy's iron gates eased open as security personnel stepped forward. The children whispered, "Who is that?" "Must be someone important." "Look at the crest on the car. Royalty?" Amara turned slowly, her heart thudding under the weight of curiosity. From the back seat of the central car, the door opened with deliberate grace. A man stepped out, broad-shouldered, dignified, his expression poised but searching. His suit was impeccable, his stride calm yet electric. Recognition sparked among some students. "That looks like Prince Malik from Arendelle," one gasped. The crowd swelled with fascination. Ms. Grayson darted to the door, smoothing her skirt nervously, shock painted on her face. "Your Highness," she exclaimed, bowing slightly. We didn't know you'd visit our school." The prince's eyes, however, weren't on her. They weren't on the uniforms or the polished grounds. They swept the students, scanning, searching, pausing finally on a small figure near the hedge. Amara blinked, frozen in place. The prince's gaze softened, a faint crack in his composure. His strides lengthened deliberately, cutting through the crowd as if no one else existed. Students gasped. Teachers stiffened. The prince stopped only a few steps from Amara. Silence consumed the courtyard. For a suspended breath, no one spoke. Then Prince Malik's voice, clear and unwavering, broke the air. "Daughter." A collective gasp surged. Kara's smug grin fell away, her followers stumbling in confusion. Ms. Grayson paled visibly, clutching the edge of her clipboard. Amara's eyes widened, her mind spinning. Words caught in her throat. "W what?" she whispered. The prince knelt slightly, ignoring the stunned audience, his expression raw and tender. "Forgive me for waiting this long," he said softly, though every bystander heard. "But it's I, your father." The courtyard erupted. Some screamed, some whispered feverishly. The poor girl mocked as a maid's daughter had just been claimed, not by some faceless ghost, but by a prince. The courtyard, moments ago a place of ordinary teasing and idle chatter, now trembled with a tension that felt historic. Students pressed closer, their chatter colliding into a wall of disbelief. Phones emerged instantly, camera lenses catching the air of Arendelle standing face to face with a girl they had dismissed as invisible. Kara's voice cracked as she stammered, That can't be true." Her words were drowned by the crowd's gasps, by Ms. Grayson's nervous laughter as she fumbled, trying to regain order. "Your Highness, surely you must. There must be some misunderstanding." Prince Malik's steady gaze pinned her where she stood. His voice was calm but carried an unbreakable steel beneath it. "There is no misunderstanding. This young woman is Amara Bennett, my daughter." Every whisper of disbelief now turned into a storm. Some students covered their mouths. A few teachers exchanged worried glances, their earlier indulgence in classroom cruelty now burning shamefully in their chests. Amara gripped the strap of her satchel, her heartbeat roaring. She had dreamed of her father's face, but dreams had never prepared her for this. "Wait," she whispered, tilting her head as if the world had tilted with it. My father?" Prince Malik's expression softened. For the first time in years, his carefully polished diplomatic composure broke away. "I should have been here long ago," he admitted, his voice lowering past the audience. "I promised myself I would, and then diplomacy, duty, cowardice got in the way. But no more. Do not doubt my words. Amara, I am your father, and nothing changes that again." Kara's smirk splintered into a frown, her face red with embarrassment. She had mocked Amara for poverty, for not belonging, for never knowing her father. Now she stood watching her classmate be embraced by royalty. The script had reversed in seconds, and every student knew it. Ms. Grayson, however, scrambled for dignity as the nearest authority figure. Well, she tried, her voice unnaturally bright. "This is truly unexpected. What an honor to have you here, Your Highness. We're delighted that one of our own pupils is, she faltered, studying Amara, of such noble lineage. But Malik's gaze was sharp. Is that what you call her experience here, delight? Heat spread across the teacher's face. She had not expected a prince to defend the child they laughed at daily. I assure you, Your Highness, we have always valued. Enough? Malik cut in, his tone firm. If you had valued her, you would have protected her dignity, not stood by while others tore it down. It was a scolding so public no teacher at Hamilton Academy had ever known such humiliation. A hush fell over the staff as Malik looked around. You treated her as less because she seemed powerless. I say now she was never powerless. She carries my blood, my name, my legacy, and I will personally see that she is given every ounce of respect she was denied. Kara shrank against her friends, her once powerful sneers meaningless now. They dared not echo her this time. Their faces blanched. Knowing any cruel word against Amara was now a direct insult to a royal. Amara's mind spun violently. Too many emotions fought for breath. Shock, bewilderment, longing, anger, hope. She looked into Malik's eyes, searching for truth. There was laid bare, both royal and human. She whispered, trembling, "Why now? All these years." His jaw tightened. He looked down briefly and then back at her. "Because I was weak when I should have been strong. But today, I will not fail you. Not again. If you allow me, Amara, I will take you home." That word, home, landed heavy. Her classmates stared wide-eyed, absorbing the impossible sight. The mock girl from Scholarship Corners now spoken to as a princess. Amara tilted her head, still trembling. "Home. Yes," Malik said firmly. "Home to Arendelle, where you will have what you deserve. Not whispers, but respect. Not scraps, but dignity." His hand extended to her, open, waiting. The courtyard swelled with gasps and immediate chaos. Students clamoring for photos, teachers stumbling awkwardly into false smiles. Some bowed shabbily, untrained in royal etiquette, but afraid not to try. But in the stillness where it mattered, Amara's eyes darted from Malik's hand to the stairs pressing down around her. She thought of her mother, the woman who raised her, who endured so much in silence. She thought of these hallways she had walked in hand-me-down shoes while insults bruised her heart. Could she just step across a line drawn so suddenly between who she was and who she had just been revealed to be? "Your Highness," Ms. Grayson pressed quickly, "perhaps it would be wise to conduct this family matter away from the students." Her voice, laced with politeness, dripped with desperation. She wanted silence, control restored. But Malik turned to her with the same steadiness as before. "No," he said clearly. "It was here she was mocked. It is here she will be vindicated." Silence hit like a hammer. Amara's hand wavered, trembling. Then slowly, she reached out, placing her palm in Malik's waiting grasp. His fingers closed around hers, steady, grounding as stone. The courtyard erupted with noise, but none of it mattered. Malik bent slightly, lowering his head toward Amara's. "Daughter," he repeated softly, just for her. The sound of it filled the emptiest spaces she had carried. The crowd couldn't decide where to look. At the stunned teacher whose bias had been exposed, at Kara who wished the earth would swallow her whole, or at Amara who stood quietly, almost regal already, despite the disbelief that still shook her veins. "Ladies and gentlemen," Malik's voice carried over the crowd. "Introduce yourselves properly to Amara Hale of Arendelle. My blood, my daughter, your future princess." The words exploded like fireworks in the quiet town. Gasps turned into screams. Phones buzzed like hives, messages flying worldwide faster than teachers could shout them down. The girl with frayed uniforms was no longer invisible. She was radiant in the eye of recognition, her father's hand steady around her own. Amara's lips parted. She whispered, too soft for anyone but Malik to hear. "Father?" He touched her shoulder gently. "Yes, always yes." For the first time in Hampton Academy's long history of polished elitism, the tables had turned with poetic finality. Wealth that mocked poverty now trembled before humility, entrenched in bloodlines richer than any gold. And for Amara, still trembling, the echoes of a lifetime of mockery dimmed beneath one undeniable truth. She belonged. The principal's office had never hosted anything like this. The mahogany desk, usually a throne of authority, seemed pitifully small under the weight of Prince Malik's presence. Ms. Grayson sat rigid, her polite smile cracking under strain, as administrators bustled nervously, offering tea no one drank. Amara sat beside her father, hands folded tightly in her lap. Her knees bounced nervously, betraying nerves despite her attempt to sit upright. The school secretary trembled each time she popped her head in with messages. Journalists already calling, parents demanding explanation, the board panicking over scandal. Through it all, Malik was steady, composed for the world but attentive only to his daughter. Between interruptions, his gaze softened. He leaned closer to her, speaking quietly. You deserve better than whispers and cruelty. You deserve to know your worth. His words anchored her spinning thoughts. The principal, red-faced and fumbling, cleared his throat. Your Highness, of course, we are honored to have the princess in our halls. We assure you, she has always been safe in our care. Amara's lips parted, disbelief flooding her. Her mind raced with memories. The ignored hands raised, the laughter unpunished, the endless subtle smiles at Kara's jokes. Safe? She tasted bitterness. She wanted to speak. For years, her voice had bent under ridicule. But now, with her father beside her, she lifted her chin. That's not true, Amara said firmly. The room froze. The timid girl from scholarship rumors now spoke with conviction. She turned her eyes to the principal. I wasn't safe. I was mocked every day. Teachers looked the other way. Sometimes her eyes darted at Miss Grayson. They even joined in. The silence bristled with tension. Miss Grayson sputtered, Amara, that's an exaggeration. We simply encouraged. Malik's voice sliced through like steel. You encouraged cruelty. Every head dipped. Miss Grayson's face turned hot crimson. Amara's hand shook, but she didn't stop. I tried to ignore it. I tried to tell myself it wouldn't matter, that people like me weren't supposed to complain. But it did matter. Every laugh, every word, it mattered, and it hurt. Her throat ached, but she held steady. Malik turned to the room. Every inch the prince now. You judged her because you saw poverty. You assumed weakness where there was strength. But strength doesn't always wear a polished shoe or drive a luxury car. Sometimes it sits quietly, surviving ridicule, yet still choosing kindness. His palm covered Amara's hand, as if sealing her strength with his own. The administrators wilted under his intensity. This school, he continued, will correct its errors, not merely because of my title, but because of its failure to see Amara as a human being worthy of dignity. The principal stammered, Why, yes, Your Highness. We'll conduct a review. No, Malik said crisply. You'll conduct reform, and I'll ensure it personally. Whispers spread like wildfire through the halls outside. Students pressed against walls, wide-eyed as royal guards kept them back. The story already traveled through messages sent faster than sound. The poor girl is a princess. The prince defended her. Screens lit up with grainy photos of Malik holding Amara's hand. Hashtags trended across platforms before an official statement was drafted. Meanwhile, Amara sat trembling. Her heart still clashed in a symphony of disbelief and wonder. Through the dizzy swirl, one thought stood out. Her mother. She wanted to run home, to wrap her arms around the woman who shielded her all these years. As if sensing it, Malik leaned close again. Does your mother know I've come? Amara blinked. She doesn't know yet. Malik's face softened into guilt. I owe her much, and I owe both of you apologies wider than words can reach. Tonight, take me to her, Amara, if she will see me. The words struck deep. For years she had dreamed of her father. She had pictured him powerful, kind, larger than life. Now his formality cracked to reveal regret, and strangely, it made him feel real. She whispered, She'll see you. Hours passed in a kind of fever dream. Malik's security had to escort them out through gates swarmed by reporters. Students who once mocked Amara now reached desperately to brush her arm for a photo. Kara shrank into crowd. her face caught in the blazing stares of everyone who'd cheered her cruelty until it turned to shame. In the car, Amara sat pressed against the window, staring at the blur of neighborhoods. Malik sat beside her, not rushing to fill the silence. When he spoke, his voice was soft, uncertain, rare for a man so used to command. I saw a photo of you months ago. A journalist captured you at a library event. You reminded me of someone I lost, and I knew I had no right to wait anymore. 17 years without watching you grow. Every day has been my failure. Amara turned to him slowly, overwhelmed. And now, he said, his hand resting lightly over hers again. If you'll let me, I'll spend the rest of my life undoing those failures. She nodded faintly. Tears prickled her eyes, but they weren't the same tears shed under laughter and cruelty. These were born of possibility. At her home that evening, Malik stood awkwardly at the doorway, stripped of regal pomp, just a man facing the consequences of absence. Amara's mother opened the door, flower on her hands, her expression freezing as familiar eyes met hers again after 2 decades. Malik bowed his head. The silence was heavy until her mother's voice finally broke. Took you long enough. He almost laughed, almost cried. I deserve far worse, he admitted. Amara stepped between them, her heart pounding with both nervousness and joy. Mom, he's here now. He's real. Her mother studied Malik for a long, waited pause. Then she cupped Amara's cheek, smiling gently. He is. But never forget, you were royal long before today. You were mine. The kitchen smelled of warm bread and soap, a familiar comfort clinging stubbornly even as Amara's life spiraled into something unreal. She sat at the small table, the grooves in the wood carved by dinners, homework, laughter, and tears. Everything about her home was the same, yet her father's presence filled it with strangeness she couldn't unravel. Prince Malik stood, shoulders no longer draped with a crown's dignity, but bowed with humility. Her mother, Lila, leaned against the counter, arms folded, eyes sharp. The years of holding a family together had etched patience and fire into her face. She looked at him like a man she once knew, not the prince the world admired. You come after 17 years, she said softly, yet with iron in her tone. Do you know how many nights I carried her tears when she asked why she didn't have a father? Do you know how many times I watched her mocked, humiliated, and told she didn't belong? Do you know how ridiculous it is to stand here now, when most of her battles she fought alone? Malik didn't flinch. His eyes lowered, his voice dropping low. I know, and I have no excuse. Only shame. Amara swallowed hard. Mom, she whispered, glancing between them. Her mother shook her head, softer now. And yet, when you walked into that courtyard, you gave her the one thing even I couldn't. Proof that she was never less than anyone. That matters. It matters more than I want to admit. Slowly, Malik dropped to one knee in that tiny kitchen. Not before a crown, but before the woman who carried his absence like a weight. You raised her into strength. Every quality I admire in her. Her fire, her resilience, her kindness. She learned from you. Allow me to honor that, even if I was late. The silence thickened, Amara's chest heavy. Then she watched her mother exhale, long and deep, and gnawed once. Your words won't erase the years, she said. But maybe your actions can add something to the one she has left. You owe her that. Malik looked at Amara then, his eyes brimming with a kind of rawness no camera could catch. Will you let me? Not as a title, not as a prince, only as a father. For the first time in her life, Amara let herself imagine not just the absence, but its reversal. I don't know if it will be easy, she admitted, her voice trembling. But I want to try. A tear escaped her father's eye as he smiled gently. Then that is enough. Word spread beyond the walls of their home in days. Images of Amara and Malik overtook headlines. The story of the poor girl mocked at school revealed as a princess, flooding every corner of news. Invitations poured in for interviews, galas, appearances. But Amara resisted being polished into a spectacle. She remembered every cruel word, every ignored hand raised, every tear wiped quietly in hallways. She didn't want fairy tales spun around her. She wanted truth told plain. So when she stood at a podium weeks later beside her father, She didn't play the gracious figurehead. She spoke with fire. You saw me as less because I was poor, she told a world now listening. But poverty doesn't erase dignity. Struggle doesn't erase intelligence. Your laughter didn't erase my worth. For every student still mocked in classrooms, for every child silenced because of their clothes or their name, I will not stand quietly. I am not here only as a daughter of a prince. I am here as proof that no one has the right to define another's destiny. The applause that thundered after was not polite, practiced applause. It was heavy, alive, roaring with people who saw themselves reflected in her voice. Malik watched with tears in his eyes, knowing his daughter had inherited not only his blood, but his fire. Lila stood in the wings, proud beyond words, whispering under her breath, "That's my girl." And back at Hamilton Academy, whispers still filled halls. But they were different now. Students who once scoffed now flinched when they remembered. Ms. Grayson sat behind her desk quieter than ever, her authority hollow. And Kara walked quicker, eyes avoiding Amara's name, which now hung shining in corridors as both story and warning. Amara did not gloat. She walked those same halls one last time, head high, shoulders square, each step no longer burdened. The shadows of cruelty no longer clung to her. Dignity was hers, not borrowed from lineage, but claimed by endurance. As she left the school gates for the last time, reporters swarmed, flashes blinding. Students craned their necks. Teachers pretended pride. Amara paused, glanced back, and whispered softly, "Your laughter will never define me again." Her father's car door opened. She stepped inside, her mother's hand warm in hers, her father's arm steady at her back. As the convoy pulled away, she looked once more at the building that had tried to bury her. Instead, it had sharpened her. And in that moment, Amara knew something truer than any headline. She was not a princess because of blood. She was a princess because she stood tall, because she fought cruelty with strength, because she had turned shame into fire. Whispers may have begun her story, but her voice, bold, unshaken, would finish it.